welcome back to Jades Corner, the channel where I provide high quality and thought-provoking Teen Wolf content. In today's video, I'll be providing an introspective spotlight and discussion on Teen Wolf's main protagonist, Scott McCall. Now, let's get started with Scott in seasons 1 and seasons 2. Now, in season 1, Scott, in my opinion, he was an alright character. He wasn't really anything too special. He was kind of your average teen drama main character dealing with an issue that he had to solve. Scott had a couple of moments in season 1 where he stood out. In particular, a lot of the scenes where he was defending his friends, such as the episode Night School. I feel like Scott taking kind of like the leadership role in that little group they had there in the school and kind of leading everybody and protecting everybody until like the cops came and the alpha left and stopped bothering them. Was a pretty good character moment for Scott, but there are also some things he does in the first season which I don't like. He is by far, I don't know how people keep defending this. And I've seen people defend it in comment sections within the last year and a half of, between like 2022 and 2023. But people have literally said that Scott is one of the best friends, like, to anybody in the entire series. And I don't understand how you can come to that conclusion with some of the stuff that he does to Styles, especially in season 1. Like, making out with Lydia is one of the worst things he ever does in the entire series. And it's never addressed again, which is weird because you would think something as big as that with a character like Styles getting with Lydia, it's something that would have been addressed maybe in season 2, but no, it just happens. They talk about it for like a 5-minute scene and it's never discussed again. But that's something, in my opinion, that should have had more of an impact on the friendship, because Scott knew how much Lydia meant to Styles, and the fact that he just violated bro code and just literally made out with her, which would have hurt Styles as it should, is just a terrible move as a friend to make, in my opinion. It's something that can be forgiven, but it should have taken more time for Styles to be like, damn, bro, you just made out with my girl like that. Even though it wasn't Styles' girl at the time, but like Styles, he did like her. So yeah, those are some of the things that bother me with Scott in season 1. But other than that, he's a pretty alright character in the first season. He's not terrible, but he's not great either. He's kind of in the middle. Season 2, Scott, on the other hand, is a very, very, very big improvement on Scott in season 1. Scott in season 2 is probably one of my favorite iterations of the character, just because he finally uses his head and makes a lot of smart decisions in season 2, especially towards the second half. Like, it was literally because of him that Gerard and the Canema were stopped. So season 2 Scott, they, in my opinion, listened to the criticisms of season 1 Scott, I think, Jeff and whoever else was in his writer's room at the time, and very much improved on Scott in all aspects. He was more competent as a werewolf. He was a much better friend to Styles in season 2. And he, in my opinion, he was actually a pretty good boyfriend to Allison, because a lot of people considered the whole Scallison relationship toxic, but I think that is very deceptive to say, and it's very much disingenuous, because that relationship was not toxic. It was only toxic, and I use heavy air quotes when I say this, in the sense that people think it was a bad relationship because of the circumstances that just happened to both of those characters in season 1 and 2. But other than that, Scott and Allison's relationship, I would say, was pretty solid, especially in the later half of season 1, early season 2. They were a very solid couple. It was only circumstances that happened to the both of them because of the events happening at the time that really made that relationship go downhill, and the whole history with what happened with the rest of that. But other than that, season 1 and 2 Scott, season 1 pretty decent, season 1 very good. I very much enjoyed Scott in season 2. In seasons 3 and 4, season 3 Scott is the season where Scott really started to grow on me a lot. He had a lot of leadership qualities about him. The only thing I don't particularly like about Scott in this season is the whole true alpha thing. I think that the whole being a goody two shoes to become an alpha thing is kind of lame. Like, I think I speak for most of the Teen Wolf community when we all wanted to see Scott kill Jennifer Blake at least, or Deucalion, and become an alpha that way. But Jeff, for some reason, was like, I gotta keep my main protagonist pure and clean because he always has to have the moral high ground because that's just the character I wrote. And I just think the whole idea of true alphas in Teen Wolf is pretty dumb. But, I mean, it's handled decently. But other than that, I really don't have much to say about Scott. Like, he's more of the same from season 2. Just with better writing, in my opinion, because season 3A does have stronger dialogue than season 2 does, even though I think season 2 and season 3A are the show's strongest seasons. But yeah, not much to say there with Scott. Season 4 Scott, on the other hand, Scott in season 4 is kind of hit or miss. There are some times where I think Scott is, carrying that swag and that attitude and that leadership that he had in seasons 2 and 3. And then there are other times where I'm like, bro, come on, bro. You feeling like season 1 Scott. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop, bro. Go back to how you were like 2 episodes ago. So seasons 3 and 4 Scott are relatively on the same par, but sometimes Scott being a little like, Season 5 Scott is by far the worst. I hate Scott in season 5, especially season 5 part 1. He is a terrible friend. And season 5 was the primary season where I think I realized this for the first time. I was like, bro, you're going to believe this kid who you haven't seen in like a decade plus over your best friend who's been riding or dying with you throughout all the supernatural stuff you've been with. What? Just because he's supernatural and you're and Styles isn't? Like, I never understood Scott's thought process with a lot of the decisions he made in season 5 part 1. Like, it was really dumb, especially with the whole like Hayden thing too. Like, him not wanting to save Hayden was kind of stupid because he ended up doing the exact same thing he didn't want to do at the end of season 5 part 2, and Hayden survived becoming a werewolf. So yeah, I think him literally turning Hayden would have saved her from the whole Mercury situation that was going on with the Dread Doctors. And it was just a whole lot of stuff that Scott was doing that made me go like, bro, like, you're literally at the bottom of the worst characters in the entire show right now. Like, what are you doing? Like, all the development and stuff I liked with Scott in seasons 2 and 3, and to an extent season 4, was just being shattered and destroyed right before my eyes in season 5 part 1. Season 5 part 2, it does redeem him slightly because he finally stops making stupid decisions and he's more of the Scott from season 3 and season 2. And I'm like, thank you, because the way I was writing this character, I was like, oh dear. And then season 6 Scott is again more of the same with like season 5B Scott, just kind of on the same road to redeeming himself from the god-awful writing and the god-awful portrayal of his character in season 5 part 1. And I think I enjoy Scott in season 6 part 1 more than I enjoy him in season 6 part 2. Although there's not a lot of things I enjoy about that second half of season 6, as most of you guys are already aware already. But season 5 and season 6 Scott are pretty decent, with season 5A being, I don't even know what Jeff Davis and his writing team were thinking in that season. Jesus, it was not good at all. And then that leaves us with Teen Wolf the Movie Scott, where Teen Wolf the Movie Scott, in my opinion, is just season 2, season 3, and season 5B Scott, just all wrapped into a nice, neat bow tie and just perfectly cleaned up and nice, except 10 times better. He's everything I hoped adult Scott would be, except the fact that I hate that we didn't get like the full fight scenes, because in the behind the scene photos, we clearly saw that there were a lot of scenes cut from the movie, such as Scott's fight with the Oni, where he was destroying the Oni without breaking a sweat. And I think there was a scene in the trailer too, which also didn't make it into the movie, where we literally see Scott kick an Oni with full force and completely incapacitated, which went to show everything I wanted for Scott to happen happened in Teen Wolf the movie, if that extra stuff would have been added in. Because One of the biggest criticisms that a lot of people have with Scott is that he's extremely weak. He never uses his power to his full advantage. But in the trailer and in those promotional images, we clearly see that that was an issue that Jeff Davis fixed, which I can respect him for that. So although he didn't listen to the fans for the most part with what we wanted to see, he did listen in some aspects, like improving Scott's fighting ability and improving Scott as an alpha in terms of making him as strong as he should have been. So yeah, Teen Wolf the movie, Scott, is pretty good, not gonna lie. But yeah, now that we've reached the end, I leave this question for you, the viewer. Who do you think is what do you think about Scott in seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4, and seasons 5, 6, and Teen Wolf the movie? Which version of Scott McCall is your favorite, and which season do you like Scott in the most? Me personally, I think that the best Scott McCall was in season 2, followed by season 3A, and then Teen Wolf the movie. But I would like to know your guys' favorite incarnation of the character from whatever season you guys prefer to see him in as well. All my social medias are linked in the description below if you guys want to follow or contact me. There's also a Google form below where you can suggest any ideas for future content if that is something you're interested in as well. And don't forget to check out my book series, True Alpha. The first book is available now digitally on Amazon through Kindle. Chapter 11 is out on Patreon, and Chapter 12 will be released on September 8th, 2023. The official True Alpha Wiki is also linked below for questions about the verse, and anything you need to know about the series is on that OneNote Wiki.